Why, hello, and welcome back to another episode of Voice of the Rings. And just as I promised, we have a guest today with us. We're doing a RiseToWar Legacy playlist, and we have Jethros here right above me. And we have both our games over here. And today in this video, we're going to do Strategizing for Season 6. We're just going to talk about a bunch of different things. You guys can leave comments later if you want us to answer them. I will definitely check them. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you have fun. And we'll have a blast today. Welcome, Jethros. And we're just going to be talking.
That's awesome. I feel very welcome.
Good. We're just going to be talking and having total fun in this episode, and we're going to be strategizing on a few things. Our items that we like. What is our items you have? And this is something you guys can think about later, is what items you have to use for Season 6. What have you focused on in the past? You can switch items occasionally, right, when you do reforging and refining in certain ways. But what do you already have to use? What respect do you have? So if you're a free-to-play player who's just been collecting stuff, not buying stuff, this might help you out in that way. But if you're someone that spent a lot of money too, might help you out. Me and Jethros are moderately spenders compared to some in this game. So anyway, let's get right into it. So we were just talking about this yesterday, Jethros. What is, you were asking what champions, right, that you thought I thought was best since you took a break last season? What are the best champions?
What commanders were like
yeah,
really good in
commanders.
from your
Yeah,
experience.
Yeah, exactly. And what I told him was the big ones were Theoden, the Witch King, Gandalf the White. People are using Gandalf the White. Zollin is still a really good tier 1 champion. A lot of people were using. Thorin is really excellent. And there was quite a few evil heroes too. Sauron was being used a lot, and so was Grima, to kind of counter the Witch King and a couple other characters because of the madness on the commander.
Right.
So those, I was using Gimli. Dane is still a good champion, but I really felt like Thorn was the big one. So anyway, with that, let's start with theorizing over Theoden, because I feel like he was huge last season, and Jethros has some really good items and stuff.
I do.
Okay. Don't you have your retaliation item?
Well, I do, but I don't really run that build because it really works best with the Fallen as your tier 4 unit.
Yeah. Are we gonna be able to get? No, we can't get Fallen in this new game. We're playing the new game mode, guys. The Rings of Men, right? I believe that is. Let me just double check for us real quick. Yes, Rings of Power, Kings of Men. Excuse me.
Right.
I mixed it. Yeah. So basically, this one is gonna have some special things. I mean, they can read this right here if you guys want, but you know. It's going to be a non-roleplay campaign, so that means we can have evil units and vice versa with good commanders and bad commanders. Both commanders of Free Peoples are commanders of Sauron's forces, as well as units from both sides are available for use. In the campaign Rings of Power, your fellowship can contend for the rings. We'll follow up more on this in other videos in the future. For control points and establish a kingdom of your own, obtaining a Ring of Power. You can use ring abilities to gain upper hand in combat, which we already knew about, claim rings power, prove yourself in combat, all right? So again, it's real simple stuff there, but then, Jethros, you did read the other day something about the tier 4 units we can get that everyone's going to be able to use? Or no,
so it seems like, we have a couple of people who have already started Season 6 since we waited a little bit extra long to get ready for this season. And it seems like the way that it works is you start off with men units from the Númenórean barracks and evil men units from like the Run barracks. And so apparently that means that the only T4s we're going to have access to are the War Chariots and the Swan Knights. And,
interesting. And
everything else will need to be conscripted through
the neutral camps, right?
Yeah, the neutral camps that you can place next to your base. So.
Which is going to be really interesting for Season 6 strategy if you are going to join the Kings of, Rings of Power, Kings of Men campaign. Again, if you're someone going back and attack it's evolved, you're not going to really. You can still think about using your normal tier 4 unit for your faction, but there isn't really going to be factions in this, which is very interesting. It's going to be very, I don't know. I'm excited about this campaign. I don't know about you, Jethros. Like, I'm kind of excited to try something new because I personally didn't really thoroughly enjoy the War of the Ring campaign because it was like so easy. You were in that, right? Yeah.
reason why I took a break and I skipped a whole season. So
yeah.
But
Yeah,
I'm
it was
back
just
now. Just figured I'll have some fun with it this time around, and we'll see what happens. So
yeah,
I
it's
did
gonna be
miss it a
fun.
lot. I thought about the game a lot still, and I watched content. I just didn't play the whole season. But yeah, that's why I was asking for your advice and your opinion on what you saw. It was popular.
Yeah, definitely. So my again, the commanders that were so huge that I thought were just like crazy. Now again, we're doing it in the vertical mode because it was easier to get both of our clients in here for the stream, and did fitting. But with commanders as it goes, the biggest ones I saw used, which this was Jethros was asking me last season, was really Theoden was hugely used. I saw Gilgalad a lot. I saw, Galadriel was really well used. There were some Danes, but not a ton. Gandalf the White. Aragorn the Second, King of Men, was actually, I saw him used by a bunch of my faction friends. And then pretty much Thorin. Celeborn was still used a lot. I know you liked him in season 4, right, Jethros? So he could be a good one too.
We were Lothlorien, so that's when I figured would be the best time to play test him.
Yeah, and the thing is, we're not going to be able to use March Wardens, so like that's And Theoden, it's just he was used so much. I mean, he was like everywhere. Every single high level player or mid level player seemed to be using Theoden last season. It was actually like getting kind of ridiculous. I was getting a little tired of fighting horses constantly.
He's universally accepted as being very strong, but he does feel like he caps out a little bit, like based on gear. Like basically, he already kind of is as strong as he's going to be, and like there's a lot of commanders that like after like R15, like Respect 15, they're going to be still getting stronger, and he doesn't really scale too much with gear, so that's why it's almost kind of funny. You just use gear to counter other people, like you use like focus resistance gear or burn damage resistance gear, because that's just going to be what you're trying to deal with the most, because I think his biggest weakness is dealing with elemental damage.
Yeah, that's kind of why I put this quilted armor on mine temporarily while I was testing, just to have the focus damage reduction. Because
that's really good.
And of course I know I have this now with the reins.
Yes,
and like man, it's
been
so
jealous
good.
of that since you got that, and it's not fair.
I know. I just got it, and like it just chances of this game, man. And then probably this is still one of the best helmets, right? Madness immunity for for your units,
basically, because he doesn't have any immunity. I mean, he has the renewed, which will reduce or remove different debuffs, so that could remove madness or it could remove stuns, but it's kind of unreliable at which thing it's going to remove. So it's better to have that and be sure that you're not going to get madness or stun
on your
at the
units
beginning of a round.
And then I also found out last season that all allies does not include the commander when it says that. So I found that out by some people last season, but I also found out that if you're looking at, for example, the Iron Bassinet, which I have, or I say that right? Yeah, I think it's that on my Gimli. The way it says each round dwarves, it is a chance to stun, even though you click it and it shows only dwarf units. This is kind of something I think they need to update. It doesn't show the fact that it actually does affect dwarf leaders too, apparently.
Really?
Yeah, that's what I was told by somebody. Now I take that with a grain of salt. But when I looked into when I looked at I attacked something, I'm pretty sure, off the top of my head, I'm pretty sure it did say that Gimli gained stun immunity. Like, it attempted to, but 80% chance is really high because mine's so high up. So I'm pretty sure he did gain stun immunity, which was
hop into
crazy.
The challenge right now and find out.
Yeah, I think we should test it. I definitely think we should test it out. That would be fun to do right now. And then another big one that I just have not been able to get to work a few seasons back, Imrahil. I feel like because this game mode doesn't have tier 4 units besides the neutral camps and those two on Evelyn's, you're right, the two different ones, they're going to give us all Dol Amroth Knights, right? No matter what you're playing. That's really, really good for the fact that Imrahil gets his, right here, he gets the Prince of Dol Amroth, where his, Cataphracts or Swan Knights, which is the one they're going to give us, Dol Amroth Knights, Swan Knights, plus 6 HP. So, I mean, I'm almost thinking maybe I should try him as one of my thing. I would recommend to everybody, and me and Jethros were talking about this yesterday, that don't do more than 4 heroes. I'd really focus just heavily on 2, especially if you're someone that hasn't put a lot of money in the game and you've just been slowly building your items up and your respect for maybe certain champions. Play the commanders you have more respect on, absolutely, but then 2, you might want to focus on the ones that are, higher tier. I mean, Jethros, we probably should make a tier list of our opinions of tiered, but I don't know. It's kind of hard off the top of my head just to say what is the best heroes. But if I was gonna tier it, people that are just off the top of my head that are really strong are Celeborn, Thorin, at least for the good side. Some people use Haldir. He's pretty good, but Theoden's amazing. Gandalf the Grey is amazing for tile taking. Aragorn the Second's really good. Gil-galad. I like Gimli. He's a lot of work to get going to make him really good, but he's still a strong hero. Dwalin's amazing. I know you're trying to make Boromir work, and he's actually a good hero. I've seen some people with him.
I mess with him quite a lot. I've done some weird stuff with him that other people I haven't seen do, which is fun. I like to try and find my own things, but
I'd like it if you told us all about that one thing in a second. I'll tell them the rest of the Galadriel. I think she's really, really strong. Éomer's very strong. Arwen's good, but she's just really good at sustaining. She doesn't always do super great at certain. Of course, there's certain encounters. And then Dane, and I've seen a lot of. I saw actually a lot of Thranduil last season, and Gandalf the White. And then of course, I don't think anyone's necessarily bad. I don't know. The hobbits, they can be good.
Seems like Frodo and Sam are kind of meant to just be thrown in with no units on them and just see if you can get your enemy to attack themselves a little bit.
Yeah,
and then you just kind of send in another commander to deal with it.
Yeah,
I suppose that's been the main meta that people have been using, which is cool, but it's kind of frustrating that you're kind of scouting with them more or less, which almost any other commander can do that. But of course, the madness commanders are the best at it because you can have the enemy hurt themselves. Maybe if you're lucky, just chunk themselves even the first round or two, and then after that, you just send in another follow-up commander to finish off whatever happened.
They're like, stop hitting yourself, right?
I think having a well-rounded ability to scout is actually kind of underrated, and I don't think enough people do it. Where you just kind of have a fast-moving unit that can go in and see what you're hitting in a tile, and then just send in what's going to be the most viable against it. And I think it's good to actually mix up what damage types you have if you have that option.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're going to do physical or focus or burn damage, you want to know what is that item that they have on that chest piece, because it's going to make a big difference offensively, how much damage you can do if they have a lot of those resistances. So that's something that I would recommend for picking new commanders to start a season. Try to have a little bit of a balance in what they do.
Mm-hmm.
If you can,
Yeah, so it's not really heavily that is a hard thing for me wanting to use Gimli, because Gimli is really very heavy physical damage dealer himself. He does have a build. He definitely has a build where he can buff his troops. The Lockbearer, we were talking about, is actually really strong.
Right.
And the Elven Protection thing, they're good, but the way he builds, you just want to do as much damage as possible and have units that can just take it. And again, of course, I put all my work into my ball and his axe.
That's awesome.
It's really fun.
I think you and I kind of have a similar problem, which actually kind of cool about being able to play together. If we really think about this, I have a lot of commanders that are very heavily focus damage based, and you have a lot of commanders that are very heavily physical damage based.
Yeah.
So in a sense, if we play together, we actually do cover each other's weaknesses, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Also, if we were to try and do anything alone, we're pretty easily countered by a couple different play styles. You're probably weak to madness a lot. If your commander gets maddened, you do so much damage to your own troops. And if anybody has the focus resistance on their chest, my Galadriel, my King of the Dead are not going to do any damage to that. So that's kind of tough.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So let's see what we were gonna. I think we should talk about. You were telling me. I want to hear about that item. You were trying to think of that one item combo the other day. You were talking about with Theoden, right? And while you're doing that, I'm gonna test Gimli out real quick.
So retaliate builds are kind of cool because they're kind of people. When I remember in season 1 when it first started becoming an item and people were getting it, they're like, this is so bad. I don't know why anyone would want this. Yeah. And so it's cool to find a way to make it feasible. The main thing is you want to look at abilities that apply on hit when you do damage and see if that works with retaliate. So what it happens with Theoden is he can trigger mounted combat off of his retaliate hits. So he does a lot of damage when he triggers the mounted combat. Sometimes even more damage than the unit does when it's just a regular hit, which I don't know how the math works on that when it says it's 70%
I know
damage.
You should show us the skill
shocking.
tree, what skill you're talking about.
So okay, so I'll go ahead and pull that up here. It's basically, and it's not just Theoden that can use this. In fact, Balin is actually one of the best characters that use it as well. But if I go ahead and go to allocate points here, it's going to be the mounted combat right here under area leader. It's going to be mounted combat. There's a 20% chance of dealing an additional 70% damage after dealing physical damage. And so every time you counterattack, you have a chance to trigger that. And even though your counterattack is reduced damage, this trigger is not. 70% is actually more damage than what the counterattacks get when they're maxed out, which is pretty insane.
So that's why
it's like getting a double hit or close to it like half the time, you know?
Yeah, gee.
So
it's so strong. It's absolutely crazy.
It kind of balances out to be a lot. And so, but the best one to use with that would be the Fallen Knights, because
they build it up, right?
Yeah, because every time they take damage, they deal more damage following that, and so it stacks up really quickly. I think it's up to 10 stacks, and it triggers just really hard. Another one is Balin has, let's see here, Balin has Lord of Moria. So when the dwarf hits, it has a 30% chance. If it's maxed, it's 35% chance of doing 150% healing after doing any physical damage. So that counts when it does its regular attack and anytime it does a counter attack. And also, Balin does have the inspiration. So for the first 3 rounds, he's giving extra damage to those units. So, and Dwarven Leader's perfect for this because he reduces incoming damage and increases outgoing damage on dwarves. So if you have like the T4 dwarves, or in some ways even the Guardians are kind of decent.
His tier 1 is good. Like you don't even need to have
I don't even
3
need
or
his
5
higher level ones. But if I did, it'd be even better because I could get the burn resistance potentially, and maybe think about spreading those points out a little bit more. But that was just me testing it. See, right now I'm personally rather limited because I have where is it? I'm sorry, I'm not clicking. Here it is. All right.
No worries.
I have Laying with Counter Strike, which only works on the first 2 rounds. It's a higher amount of damage, and it doesn't reduce the damage you do outgoing at all. But it only works for the first 2 rounds. So, you know, if this was maxed out, it would be pretty strong for the first 2 rounds. Or I'm also waiting to see if I actually can get Retaliate on this item, because I've gotten like 6 of these now, and I haven't gotten the Retaliate one once yet.
So. I know it's the worst. You're trying to get that one ability. You're like, I have so many of them, and yet I can't find it. That's
and then rough. one other one that I wanted to mention, just since we're on the topic of Retaliate, that kind of gets underlooked, is on Denethor and Imrahil. They both have it's called Ally. And this commander, it's a 40% chance of recovering HP when men deal physical damage. So that also works with Retaliate as well.
Okay.
Which is pretty cool. But I don't think that it's as good of a healing as Balin's is, because you max it out. It's a 40% chance, which is a 5% higher chance, but it's only going to be 45% healing, whereas Balin's is 150% healing.
That's
like 3 times
Balin is crazy. And now that, and then you can go to the next character in a second, but I want to just mention too that if people don't want to use Gandalf the Grey as their tile taker, Balin and Thorin are very, very good at taking tiles too, because Balin has healing and he has a stun and he buffs his guys in the first 3 rounds. And Thorin also has 2 stuns and he has buffs his guys in the first round. So they're very efficient at taking tiles early without losing troops, which is why Gandalf the Grey is so good at it. Arwen probably is pretty decent at it too, right? But
yeah, that's one thing I was gonna say. People kind of shuck her because she doesn't do a lot in PvP, but she's actually exceptionally good at retaining like the amount of troops that you have when you send her in to do tiles.
So she's probably a good tile taker too.
She'll draw like 3 times in a row, but she'll take almost no like
losses.
damage.
Yeah,
She'll take almost no losses. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you want to show Imrahil too? The ally thing. It's the same ability though, right?
It's the same ability.
Oh,
exactly.
okay. Well, let's hop over to
But here, I'll show you one other thing though, because this is really key to why it might be better on Imrahil. Is Imrahil has ally, but Imrahil also has mounted combat.
Oh.
Okay.
So he's
that would be another chance to trigger the healing also.
On top of that. Okay, so that's kind of like so that's like what Theoden's is, but now you'll have Theoden's ability to mounted combat and you have ally. So that's what you're saying. So not only are you getting extra damage, you could be getting extra healing.
You'll get less damage because Theoden does way more damage buffing for his troops. But
that's true.
Will give initiative, which is kind of cool to the unit that you're using.
And he also naturally
does quite a lot of damage.
He also naturally gives madness immunity to all mounting combat.
Undervalued at all.
Yeah, and then the HP. So like you might be losing a bit. Like Theoden's gonna hit harder as an army, but Imrahil his army might survive longer and have a lot more able to proc things, like you're saying with the healing.
If I were a dev, I would rework Prince of Dol-Amroth to be +1 HP to mounted units for every point in it, and then it gives the stun and madness immunity when it's maxed.
Yeah.
Because I think that alone would make him way more viable. Because right now he's pretty much like one of the worst in the game, except for maybe with this build.
It's such a
him at least middle of the pack.
Yeah, because my Imrahil is rank 7, and I was all excited to use him back when it was Gondor in Season 3. And I put so much into him, and had all my Dol-Amroth Knights, Swan Knights, and I got destroyed constantly. I could never beat anybody, and I was so sad about it. But anyway, let's hop back over to the Gimli. We were talking about, does he get stun immunity? I did a battle here with him, and I'm just going to quickly go through it here. So we go to pre-battle, activates Durnbud, Lord of the Glittering Caves, Experienced Warrior, and then it's going to be on round 1. Resolve of the Dwarves cause Master Throwers to gain stun immunity. Gimli, the Ram Riders sustain gun immunity. It doesn't say that Gimli got any stun immunity right here.
It's a % chance, right? So
yeah, but would it say?
Go down and see.
Would it say he didn't get it though?
I think it might. Let's see what it says when the unit doesn't.
Gimli's resolve stun meaning continues to affect. Yeah, I don't see it saying Gimli, so that might not have been correct what someone told me, because I thought I did a test and saw it did, but that was 3 months ago. Yeah.
Which one does give commander immunity? I think
is that a Numenorian helmet,
right?
Right? Yeah, I think so.
The Aegis ability, which is on. I've been trying to save one of these guys because I haven't gotten it yet. But let's see here. Boom. Right here. Each army, each round. So that's army. That's only army 2.
There is one though. I think it's I think I might have it here.
It's not one that gives it to both though, right? It's one that just gives it to commander.
It might just be commander. Yeah, here's this one. It's the
oh yeah, I have that one.
The Cascade of the submerged isle. What is that word? Yeah, cask. Allied commander each round gets, and then that becomes, I think that gets up to, at full, that gets up to 90%. And then this one also has, here's 4 rounds. Each army gains 100% chance to gain stun immunity each round, each army. And madness immunity. Each army, does that mean the enemy army too, or just your own army? Each army, each
like unit. It just says
each unit in the army. Okay. Yeah, and then first 3 rounds, enemy commander, 50% chance to inflict silence each round. Wow, that's pretty good. You're fighting someone that has that would definitely be a way to counter the Witch King if you got lucky with those hitting over and over, so he can't cast his early stuff. That would be pretty good. That would be pretty good indeed. So anyway, I'll tell people what my goal is right now with the. And by the way, there's a little button when you're looking through your commanders. There's a little dropper on the right. I found you can kind of go through them faster.
Yeah, this guy.
Yeah. So what I'm going to use this to balance my team is that I have been joking with people for a while, but I refuse to use Gandalf the Grey as my early character because I do not want to put work into him, even though he actually does have decent, my respect isn't terrible. I'm respect 7. I have items to make him work. but I want a different character that I can start early for tile tanking. So unfortunately, Gimli just loses too many troops early. He can't do it early. But who doesn't in my group is Thorin. So I'm going to use Thorin like my Gandalf, and Thorin and Gimli might together be taking tiles. I might be doing both. But then this season, I also believe I'm going to use Theoden, because even though I'm only rank 8 on him, I'm almost rank 9. I have lots of rank points to spend with him, and he's just really good, and especially since we're going to get Swan Knights. So I definitely am thinking I'm going to do that. And I'm not sure why the game decided to play the music in the background. Just give me a second here. I'm gonna turn that off because it's gonna strike my channel with that. It's using the actual theme from the movie. I'm gonna have to remove that later otherwise. Yeah, so I definitely feel like a Theoden's a really good one I'm gonna use. So my goal for season 6, especially since we're playing the Rings of Power Kings of Men, is I'm going to use my Thorin because he's rank 3 and he's just really good. I'm gonna use my Gimli later, so I'll level him up later because he's almost rank 15. And then I'll probably use 2 others. I'm going to try to focus on champions. Again, Dwalin is also very good at taking tiles early. He's not as good as Thorin and Balin, but he is good because he has the Healies, right? He's got the musician with his 2 heals, which are just so good. By the way, we recommend to anyone out there that if you're going to be killing dragons or Belrogs for the things, you want to probably use Dwalin or Ori. And if you have Ori's special item, you might have got his special item by mistake. Just kidding.
Oh, I'm so salty.
You gotta tell the story now.
I don't even remember how. It was so long ago now. I think low key that's part of the reason why I quit the game for a season. I was so mad that I got Ori's item by accident when I was trying to change the equipment bonus that I had on one of my pieces of equipment, and I leveled up this instead of something else or something. I can't remember how I did it. I was just looking at it, trying to read it, and as cool as it is, it's not anywhere near as good as like more than half of the other ones available. So.
No, yeah.
I mean, the only thing I will say is the speed is nice because dwarves it's really slow trucking there with your dwarf units.
Well, again, because of his item, so you don't have it start at all, just his item. You don't want to put a lot of stuff into him later. Let's say he's like your 4th or 5th champion for later when the things come out and you get him up to like level 35 to do dragons, right, or something, or Belrogs. He's really good if you have just the item level 1. Because for one, you have the speed, you can get there quicker, right? And then, and it gives it to your dwarves, your axemen. I'd recommend just giving if you have tier 3 axe throwers, just give them all axe throwers. You don't need to give them anything else. You don't need to give them guardians. Just give them all axe throwers. And then basically what happens is for the first 4 rounds, they have 50% chance to do maximum damage, which is fantastic. And then when you do his trait tree, you can give him some certain items. You could give him the fire item that reduces fire damage for your army. That would make him even stronger. But then you could do Warrior of the Lonely Mountain. Just make sure there's 50 points in that. And then full max out Minstrel, along with both the heals. Just max those 2 out. And then if you have extra points, put them in Cleric. And then you could even, maybe if you wanted to, you could do one of these other ones if you have that many points on him. But realistically, you just need Warrior of the Lonely Mountain, whole Musician tree, those 3, and a few points in Cleric. Have his normal item. And have, just give him some generic good gear. And again, if you have this item, which is really, really good, the one that reduces burn damage, you could toss that on there too. You will lose no dwarves. Like, literally, Jethros, I lost, 4 dwarves the last time I used it 2 seasons ago. And he just did, half the dragon's health. Because the axe throwers were all getting, and he didn't even have super great items. He just had decent purples that I had on him, which are good items. They weren't all full upgrades, but they were pretty good. And he's like, you lose 5 dwarves. Seriously, a normal amount of losses is 200-300 guys, right, for a normal fight. And that's decent. Losing 4 or 5 dwarves is sad, of course, but it's insane. He almost fully heals. So it's really hard to lose units. So again, he's a good unit and his item's good for taking dragons. But Dwalin can also do that really well because the exact same build. The only difference is Ori has more base focus for his heals. And he also has the focus increaser, and his item is better with axe throwers. So that's the only difference. So, but they can both do the same thing. But yeah. Anyway, side note for people who are starting season 6 for taking on the bosses. And
basically, you want any type of cleanse, fire resistance, and healing, and you can just sustain through most fights with the dragons and the Balrog. They have other.
They have new ones though.
Now,
yeah,
right.
They do have new ones. They have the trees.
Maybe think about that as well.
They have the horns, and they have the spider boss. I attacked one of the horns with my same exact build with Ori, and he did fine. He definitely lost more troops, but he did fine still. So it still works. It's just not as efficient as the Balrog or the Dragon, who just mainly do fire damage.
Right.
But yeah. So anyway, that's a good thing for bosses for people to know. Yeah, dude, my Gimli. So when he's full build right now, 428 might. So Gimli's item, by the way, you guys, if you're gonna put points into a purple tier item, and you want it to be a melee character, Gimli's item's crazy. Like, do you know, Jethros, do you know any other items that people could aim for, like with other heroes that have really good items? I'm trying to think. That are purple
like
tier.
Respect 10 items?
Yeah, respect 10 items. For like, if they're going for a purple commander, for like, they're trying to build up.
I think it's kind of uncontested that Gimli is the best one.
Yeah, oh yeah.
But the second best, in a lot of people's opinion, is actually Eomer's.
Let's get his real quick here. Yeah, so might speed. Oh, mounted damage.
At how good it looked.
That's Eomer and his army gain the following effects: increases Eomer's next attack double 10% when speed reaches 200. Okay, so that's kind of like how Gimli's pursuit works. Allied mounted units prioritize enemy range units when speed. Wow. So if his speed, that's so good. So that means the only way you can protect your units is from a special ability that forces the enemy to attack.
Yeah, like a taunt kind of thing. Yeah.
Kind of like Gimli's protect elves.
It's really good against good side, because good side usually relies on range a lot more.
Mm-hmm. It kind of makes me laugh that Gimli's counters that, because like Gimli and him are kind of like in the books like competing with each other, but like best friends. Like, so that's kind of funny to me that he's like, yeah, I counter your special weapon. Oh my gosh.
That's funny.
Yeah, but that is a good one. So I'm curious with I mean, obviously Gimli's is just, it's just crazy that, again, you guys, this goes up.
Pursuit is what's the most insane about it.
Yeah, and it's not that hard to get the focus.
One of the best ways to get rid of your commander damage is to give pursuit, or to get avoidance, and then they just like miss abilities.
But pursuit ignores the target's evasion. So
yes,
that's really good. Yeah, I mean, look at, so fully upgraded, it gives 66 might and +3 attack to all your dwarves, which is already good. And I really like, my favorite Gimli build is really just to go Ram Riders and Guardians. Just because the Ram Riders help break open more damage reduction, and they have a lot of new things if you use the upgraded system, because Ram Riders get that, like, they get a special bonus for the, what is it called, elite training. Of course, we won't have elite training in this new game mode for Season 6, for at least for me and Jethros. That's if you're doing the other tactics or something where they've added that in. But I still like Ram Riders because they're tanky, but they can break open things, and then at the same time, just Guardians. Because they could just take so much damage, or iron. Yeah, it's really good. Did you see my new box of knowledge, Jethros?
That's pretty awesome.
That's how I got my focus over 100 again after I switched some items, because it gives focus and army HP to help them survive. Also gives might. And then, I mean, if you're a warrior character, which Gimli's a warrior, which if you guys watched my video, I talked about the different things with that. Each 20% chance for the following effect to be triggered. 9% increased damage. Commander's damage ignores 30% of the target. I'm pretty sure that stacks with his damage reduction. His break open too, as well as I'm sure it's diminishing, but also the Ram Riders have the 50% reduction. So if it's like, if they get them all, I know they're diminishing.
It seems like it would work separately, right? So one will reduce the defense, and that one will ignore
30%
what's left.
Yeah,
right? So
exactly.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, but and I've noticed the damage increase.
I don't know if you know this, but the box of knowledge supposedly is the season reward item for the season pass for this
which
next
means
season.
I could get
so
a refine
you'll get a
on it.
Guaranteed refinement on that if you keep it.
which basically just it keeps the same stats. It just becomes a 30% chance each round instead of a 20%.
Yeah,
which is really good. And I've seen it. I've seen it trickle several times, and I've seen my Gimli do my biggest hit with the army's damage included. But again, remember it was Ram Riders with him, right? Ram Riders and Guardians, which don't do that much damage really by themselves. He did 400, and I hit for 450,000 with my army against a group of trolls on a 300 tile, because they could actually take that much damage. That's the issue. Yeah. Can you actually deal that much damage to an army?
Army would be deleted before that.
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, so that's pretty fun. I should want to fight a guy with full mama kills, just like all mama kills, and he's like, haha, and I'm like, Gimli, that's 3 already. I'm just kidding.
I remember back at the end of season 1, was it? You were doing all kinds of damage to those mama kill camps and just taking all for the
that was before I even had this box of knowledge or the axe.
You even use mama kills.
Yeah,
you were just farming them for the what is it called? The ring power.
The ring power. Yep. Yeah. There was no one down there. I think I had 60 mama kill camps or something by the end of the season, and my Gimli could just go over and doop, it's mine. Just like by himself, because he was literally back then he was hitting by himself because they could take so much damage. He was hitting almost 400,000 by himself, not counting his army.
And that's when we first found out about how to skill Gimli the best way possible.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. So. With the trading and trick for people, when you first put your points in, if you have an ability, if you have all in on any of your dwarves, make sure when you put all your first points in, make sure you put the first point. So 1 out of 7, right? The first point in these pieces. Make sure the last one is an all-in, because it does trigger it if the abilities land on the same turn, which really only matters with Gimli as much. If your abilities land on the same turn, this will go last then on the same round. Also, I should say.
If you have an ability that reduces the enemy's armor or increases the damage they take,
like break,
try to make sure it triggers first.
So you want to put your first point in that, and then boop boop boop. So for example, if I was going to trait this for people to know. So I would go ahead and first just, put 2 points, because I'm going to use all 3 of these trees. So put the points into this. Boop. All right. And then I'm going to put this last. I'm not going to put that point in yet. So I'm going to start with putting the one in a break defense. And then it doesn't really matter with these. I'm going to do whirlwinds, heavy wound, and then I'm going to do collaboration, which is an ability. Hunt down doesn't really necessarily matter because it's a buff, but I'm going to put it there. And now you need to put your point, the last one, into all in. All right, and now once you have that set up, that's ordered them, depending on if they land on the same round. Now you can just dump the rest of your points in. And for me, I find the best build is full tree of Experienced Warrior with his axe, full tree of Durin's Blood, and then whatever points you got, put them in the last ones here. So that's my best setup for Gimli. I found that's done the most efficient amount of damage. Because you can get full points into Lord of the Glittering Caves, and it helps your army more. And then also your break defense and heavy wound will be fully upgraded. But I just found that it's not as efficient because of targets, right? Because if Gimli wastes his damage by finishing off a target that only had 1,000 health left, and he could have done 50,000, but only does 1,000, it's kind of a bummer. That's why Whirlwind's really good too, because you hit 2 targets. But anyway, that's about it. And I'm going to max this one out. And then I usually break defenses, but what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put those points in there, and then I'm going to put a few points into this one, and I'll probably just put the last 2 into this one. Boop, just like that. That's what I do with my rank. Yeah. There it is. That's it. Yeah. Pretty fun.
A little golden nugget of Gimli building in the middle of this video.
And we have other guides and stuff on that, but I don't know. Is there anything else we can show them right now for our theory building? Because I know you were theory building Galadriel, weren't you?
Dude, all I've done in Bag End is constantly reset and try different builds on things. I've messed around with everybody, and the thing is, I have Galadriel. She's R7. She's pretty good. I'm just wondering if she'll be viable to start the season with, because mainly I would need to rely on her ability to heal. So I would need to put points into Ring of Water. Which feels weird because I'm boosting my focus first and then putting points into Ring of Water. And actually, if you look at this, Ring of Water does not scale with focus.
Oh, yeah.
So what that means is it's a fixed amount based on the unit that you heal. It's based on their HP.
And that kind of the problem if you're trying to take tiles to keep people alive.
Yeah.
Because you can't buff it up.
it heals so much that it's probably good enough if you just do 2 points here, and then 1 point here, 2 points here, 1 point here until you have it in the early. But it just kind of feels awkward because realistically, the main reason you use her is to do a bunch of focus damage with these 3 abilities.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure.
And does she have a stun early though to help take out?
No,
she doesn't. And does she have any? Does she have any defensive buffs for like against
she has
tiles?
White Council, like a lot of.
Oh, okay. So I mean that is a lot of defensive.
If you're against evil, you want to use White Council and High Alert. If you're against good, you want to max out Magical Barrier for the.
Oh, okay. Bonus. Oh, but that does get so there is a defensive bonus she uses on them.
Yeah, okay. She gives a defense buff that's actually massive because, I could get her like 600 focus after all of her things, and so Magical Barrier will increase their defense by like 60.
Oh wow. Okay.
When it's maxed out with all the focus.
And then she could have the heal too on top of that. Yes. But I mean, because really she's really only gonna be able to take tiles decently well if she's rank 5. That's what you're saying, pretty much early.
Yeah, I mean her rank 1 is pretty good.
But you'll probably lose troops, right?
R0 like skill is good because that's her damage, but you're not really gonna have your units surviving very well.
Which is my Gimli issue.
Do White Council stuff a little bit, but yeah, it's kind of like meh until you have the full thing going on.
She's more of a PvP monster, so she's probably gonna be like
you want to like mock battle up to use in PvP and like potentially.
So kind of like what I'm gonna do with my Gimli, I'm gonna mock battle him more later, or help me take a big tile later. Yeah. And then I'm going to use Thorin to slowly build up my tiles. Now, granted, I'm also going to be using, I'll need another character because early you need the stamina of like 3 or 4 characters to do stuff. But you do have to think about, is it worth trying to get more tiles quicker using up your troops with multiple commanders? Or is it better to wait for your stamina to recharge and save your troops up and use the same commander to take higher level tiles over and over? That's kind of like the trick. And I don't know, my opinion so far has been 2 to 3 commanders at most early. Like taking tiles. Like real early you could use 2 or 3 to take all the little level 1 tiles. But once you start going to 15, 40 tiles, I found that it's better just use your highest level commander that's your good one. Like for me it's going to be Thorin. Or for maybe out there you guys are Gandalf the Grey or whatever one you'd like to use. That's really good at that. But
I think that's really good advice. One thing I will say though is there are certain commanders that take such few losses if you use them properly that you could just add them on to your number of commanders you're using for free. Yeah. So like for example, Gandalf the Grey and Arwen are the 2 that come to mind, and they heal or resist and dodge so much damage that basically you won't lose anything for having them. So if you have them, you might as well just use them because you're not going to lose hardly any units unless you're like completely overextending yourself, or you just get a bad tile that counters them. Like maybe against Gandalf you face an enemy that resists stun or has pursuit, or against Arwen you have somebody who's blocking your heals. So they're kind of like, it's almost kind of cheap to think about, but they're kind of like a free extra commander that you won't lose anything for leveling and using. So if you kind of think about them that way, they're always worth using.
Then in theory, like if they could probably do that to have extra units. So you could have your one guy who is going to be your PvP character later that you've worked hard on, who maybe isn't good at saving your units later. But then also if you really want to keep going and playing and you have more room for more tiles and you want to have early in the game, those first few hours, use your bonuses for 24 hours, right? Like Jethros is saying. Then you could use Arwen as one of those extras. Gandalf, if he's not your main one taking tiles, you could use him as an extra. Or, for example, maybe they could even use, Thorin. Balin counts.
Thorin maybe,
I think even Ori and Dwalin to an extent. They're not as good at it, but let's say they only have those tier 1s. Their musician and their heal really helps keep their units alive on small tiles early. I've really found it. So, what other ones do you think besides those? So we have, it's really, the best ones are going to be Gandalf the Grey, Arwen, Thorin, and like Balin. Those are probably like some of the best, right, for tiles early.
If you manage it properly, Eowyn and Theoden kind of heal and reduce and do enough damage too.
That's
like
true.
Anybody that could take tiles or do a lot of damage to a tile with taking minimal damage in return
and heal and defend their troops.
The only thing that now we just threw out like 6 commanders, and the only thing that you have to remember is you do need equipment. on whoever you're going to use.
Exactly.
If you don't have any equipment on them, then it's going to be kind of tough.
And that's why we recommend sticking to, 2 or 3
especially
early.
like refining and powering up, so you have like 2 or 3 very efficient commanders.
And I made a mistake last season trying to use like 4 or 5 commanders, and my issue was, since I was mock battling several different commanders, like 2 or 3, is that when it came to the end game, I was like 2 or 3 levels behind everyone. So my Gimli was the only one that was more on par with people. So like everyone was like level 49, 48, their commanders. And a lot of my commanders were like 45, 46, 44, my main ones. And that was an issue. That got me kind of behind. Now, of course, granted, last season I switched factions. It's the first time I've ever done that. It really did slow you down. Because I had to retake tiles, right? And then mock battle and stuff. So it slowed me way down. So that could have also been an issue on top of that.
Oh, yeah.
So, but those are things you got to think
after
about.
You moved, you didn't have the 24-hour buff anymore, right?
Exactly.
That puts you so far behind.
Yeah, so you really have to think about.
Hours.
So be careful with faction switching, and then also be careful. Yeah, exactly. But Jethros, you're on the ball with that. That's exactly the issue. It took me a long time to rebuild my stuff, and not only that, I was using too many commanders. I should have been focusing on only like 2 main commanders, with taking the big tiles that I needed to take at that point once I rebuilt, and then also being the ones that I mocked battled. But you have to balance it, because you might be wanting to mock battle someone on 200 tile while your other commander takes other 200 tiles, right, as you're building your empire in RiseToWar. Yeah. So those are the things you really need to think about, with that. So yeah, I think these have been pretty good suggestions, Jethros.
Out of curiosity, what respect is your Gil-galad and Aragorn the King of Men?
Let me look. Aragorn King of Men's 2.
Okay.
And Gil-galad is right there. 4. He's almost 5.
Dude, it's like one of the best commanders in the game right there.
Yeah, I know. I think I can get him there pretty soon too. Again, I don't use a lot of elf units, but I mean everything else is so good. I mean, he doesn't need elf units though, really, except for I guess it is Kingly Kin. Yeah, it is elves. Okay.
People use him, I think, against Witch King mostly. He's like a massive Witch King counter.
Yeah, and it's literally this tree. It's Icicle or Cold Iglos. I think some is in Elvish. But I never remember an old song about a spear. There's a really cool song about this by the Glass Hammer Band. I think it's on iTunes. But yeah, deals 10% physical damage once and inflicts stun 1 round against 2 enemies. And then he also has the one with Dazzle against enemy commander. Inflicts stun for 2 rounds. The reason why that's so OP and has Pursuit to keep up is that I'm pretty sure the Witch King's first 2 abilities. Can you bring up the Witch King so we can see the counter abilities? Since we have them both on the screens here.
Sure.
I think the Witch King's abilities, we really should talk about this, because the Witch King is really, really dumb and kind of broken right now, and almost everyone agreed last season with me, because I was like, I'm not complaining, I'm not being a poor sport, but the Witch King seems OP. And he really is a little bit. But look at his first abilities. I think there's like a stun one and a pursuit one, right? So I think that's which one is it. So that one's just buffing his orcs, right? Every 2 rounds, ally units get initiative and follow up. Okay, so that's why that works really, really good with the alchemists or whatever.
Yes.
But then look at his other tree. I'm pretty sure he has like a stun or something. All right, damage, physical damage. Okay, lowers defenses, which is really, really strong. The burn damage. Okay, so you have to be respect.
It depends on what build you're doing, because this is the...
There it is, that one. Get 2 enemies, stun. Yeah. So he stuns them, and then he has another thing that increases the damage. He increases the burn damage, and it also reduces the defenses. So, for example, why this is so dumb is that I built a Dwalin build against him. I'm like, haha, my Dwalin has the fire resistance on his dwarves, 20%. I have 50% on the chest piece for my army, and he's giving 50% from Lonely Mountain, right? Buff. So he's got 120% fire resistance. I'm like, there's no way I lose this one, right? I fight the Witch King. He kills my whole army still in 2 rounds with fire damage. Not with any other damage, with fire damage. So now I'm thinking, okay, so I just had 120% because, by the way, for people who know, Rite of War, the damages or percents can go over 100, right? So, like, let's say I have 120% and someone else has a 30% reduction. Now I only have, it subtracts. So that's why I can go over 100. But I'm like, I have so much fire defense, there's no way his alchemists will be able to kill me, even if they do stun me for 2 rounds, right? His alchemist still did 71,000 and 72,000 to my troops in the first round because of the follow-up ability Witch King has. And I was just like, I couldn't even believe it. I was like, how's that even possible?
35,000 damage twice.
Yeah, and I was just like,
and then the same thing around 2.
Yeah, and he just wiped my army before they could even fight. And I just couldn't even believe it because my Dwalin was just supposed to be there to let them tank, and then he could do the damage, right? Because Dwalin could do the damage good if you build him that way. But he also has the cleanse, cleanse an ability kind of thing and heal. And I couldn't even believe it that I got destroyed that hard. Again, I think a little bit had to do with that there needs to be a balance in the Witch King. But they're pretty good at usually. Maybe this season they'll do a couple changes on him. But again, I think, like you're saying, Jethros, with this character, with Gilgalad, he's big. If you have him respect, where he can get up pretty high here. But he looks like he counters up. With rank 5, he also gets follow-up for his elves and defense reduction for the enemy. So he does kind of a similar thing.
I do think you only need him at R3, though, to really be good against Witch King.
Yeah, because he's fire resistance. Yeah. I think if he's just R3, you can easily counter. And then having the items, too, having good items, that would help.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Because, of course, you could do the stun immunity helmet, like what my Gimli has. So, I don't know. Is there anything else you wanted to mention right now, Jethros? Because we could do another video in the future for him, but like this bassinet is really good. The stun immunity
good for now, Witch King. Without revealing specifically what I'm going to do.
Yeah, I know. You don't want we don't want to be stream sniped now out there, everyone.
I'll show
They're all like
my commanders real quick.
I know.
So you could judge me. Because I missed the whole season, so I'm behind. Though I have to say, I did spend money when I played, so I'm not saying that I'm not ahead of other people who are completely free to play. But
I think you still have pretty good items. I got pretty dang lucky though with my bassinet pulls and also that one item that you want, the reins. I got pretty lucky that I got those reins so early. So
yeah, you got them when they first came out.
Yeah. But anyway, I think we'll go ahead and we'll finish up the video here. So anyway, there's some thoughts and ideas for you guys for Season 6. If you're starting Season 6, of course, if you came in later, you might not be on Season 6. But I am, and so is Jethros. Technically, Jethros was listening to everything I was doing, so he's Season 6 too. He was giving me advice the whole season anyway on things. So, all right, you guys, have a wonderful day in Middle-earth. I like how you have a Nazgul on your side, and I got Bilbo on the other side. Here. So, anyway, thanks for everyone for joining us. And then I just got a quick little shout-out here from my Patreons, because you guys are awesome. And they're, oh, no, you're stuck behind. I got to move you there. Okay, there you go. Perfect. All right, thanks to my wonderful Patreons for their support. Subscribe button's going to be somewhere between me and Jethros here, floating in the air, if we earned it. And next episode's up there for RiseToWar, and Lotra Tales over there, main content. So, anyway. Thanks for joining me and Jethros, and we'll do some more of this in the future, and maybe we could do something live, Jethros. Let people come ask questions, and we can theorize with other people, too. That could be kind of fun. All right. Thanks for being here, Jethros.
Yeah.
All right. Have a good day, everyone. Baruch Kazar, Kazar Benyo.